welcome back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Great to have you back. And the Fox Robbins Business Show is all about developing your best business ideas. And this is going to be episode 2 of 2 episodes on business model canvas with Marc Goldberg. And we want to introduce him again in this second segment. He introduced himself in the first one. And I'm Bill Fox, the co-host. And the other co-host, get this, the other co-host is the luminescent, multifarious, and ever-perceptive Coach Robbins.
Mr. Bill, how are you?
Coach.
I was delicious in the last day. I don't know what that meant.
And our guest, as I mentioned, the topic is business model canvas, and the host is Marc Goldberg of SCORE. What's this SCORE thing, Marc?
Well, SCORE is the nonprofit arm of the Small Business Administration. It's 53 years old, and on the Cape and Islands, we have 52 mentors who mentor 3 constituent groups. People who are interested in going into business, people who are in business who want to grow their business or sell their business or have an issue that they want to discuss, or nonprofits, and we help all 3 of those groups.
Those of you who are watching Fox Robbins, if you say SCORE, I don't know what that is, go to the internet, do yourself a favor, go to the internet and look up score.org, and then and feast your eyes on believe me, a wealth of information and support and ideas of all kinds that are helpful, not just to thinking about starting a business, actually starting a business, or a business that's already up and running. It doesn't matter. The SCORE helps, and the mentoring is taking place all over the nation, day in and day out, and it's no charge. In fact, you're entitled to it, so you might as well make use of it. And SCORE does help in presenting ideas on business planning, among other things. I mean, that's only one item, but it's a big item, using the business model canvas. In the first episode, Marc was giving us a full and complete introduction into the so-called business model canvas, and we're going to carry on with that. Marc, we're going to talk about this idea of creating value. The business model canvas leads you into and is asking you to think through the value creation of your business, correct?
Correct. As we talked about, the first block that you examine is the value proposition. What are you offering? Who are you offering it to, and do they have a need? What problem are you solving?
Validation.
Validation, and you validate that before you move beyond that.
Right. Because
most people have a great idea, they think it's a great idea, but does anybody else, and especially potential buyers? Mm-hmm. The second block is the customer segment, and as for whom are you creating this value? Who's your target market? And where are they located? So what you want to do is identify them and identify the segments of that target market very, very specifically, and go out and confirm that those targets are there, that they have needs, and the solution that you're offering is one that they will buy. So let's go back to the Waze example. And when you look at customer segments, go forward. In the geographic segments, what you're looking at is drivers. You're looking at the people who are out there driving. For example, going to Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. Cliff says he's on his way to Gettysburg next week, and he's going to use Waze.
I've got Waze
He's
right
the customer segment. The second are drivers who become part of a community, and that's the roadside businesses. So as Waze was developed, they said not only are drivers part of our segment, but another segment, our target, are businesses. So that as you're driving along and you're getting hungry, it identifies restaurants along the way. Mm-hmm. It identifies where you can get coffee along the way. It identifies where the hotels are along the way. So their customer segments, customer target market, are 2 segments, drivers and businesses. So what you want to do is think in terms of your business. Who are the segments? And who are your targets? How are you trying to reach them? And every business is different. For example, you go to a hardware store. Cliff will go in for some screws, but right next to him is Joe's construction company because they need a box of screws.
Right.
Okay, so they have two segments,
Right.
but in two target markets.
Different targets. But they are targeted. You know, don't you love it when people come and say, oh, everybody's a potential customer.
Right.
I'm going to be everything to everybody. You're
Right.
going to wind up being nothing to everybody.
Right. We were in the trade show industry, and we'd ask, well, who are your targets at this show? And they say, everybody. I said, no.
no. Right.
You can only talk to so many people. Who
Yeah.
do you want to talk to? Who do you want to spend time with?
And who are the most important that are going to give you their dollars for the value that you're offering?
Right.
Your next slide is here is what kind of relationships do our customer segments expect us to establish and maintain?
Right. So what you want to do is you want to think in terms of, how are you going to acquire that target market? How are you going to acquire those customers? How are you going to retain those customers? How are you going to upsell those customers? What kind of relationship are you going to have with them? And when you think of that, you want to ask yourself, okay, how do you establish the relationship with them? How do you have them come back on a continuing basis? Are you going to give them a discount coupon? For example, there's a very popular restaurant in our town, and we have a loyalty card. And on that loyalty card, for so many visits, we get a discount. We get a discount on our birthday. We get a postcard that says, happy birthday, bring this in the next 30 days. You get a 20% off of your meal.
Right.
Bring this coupon back. If you bring a friend with you, you get 15% off on both of your meals. So what you want to do is you want to think in terms of how are you going to acquire those customers? How are you going to retain those customers? Because every day that you're not doing something to retain them, somebody else is knocking on the door saying, come buy from us.
Right.
And how are you going to upsell them? How are you going to get them to the next level? When I hire a landscaper to do my fertilizing, how are they going to upsell me that they're going to do my cleanup next fall? How are they going to upsell me to do my mulching next fall?
Right.
How are they going to upsell me that, hey, maybe you don't want to do the mowing, we'll do it for you. So how are they going to do that? Are they going to have somebody come out and visit me? So they need to understand their customer base and what the relationship is between the customer and the seller. Now, for example, in this case, the casual user has a free app. The relationship is free. I just download it. The other side of it is, what do the advertisers expect? When I walk into Joe's coffee shop and they say, how'd you find us? I said, oh, Waze told me.
Right.
There's a connect. And the next time that Waze comes to upsell Joe, he's going to say, yeah, because these people came in.
And they mentioned
Waze. So what you want to do is you want to think in terms of what kind of support do you need? What kind of community involvement is there? And how are you going to accomplish that in order to create this relationship?
And now you're going to talk to us about channels.
Yeah,
What's a channel? Is that full of water? Or?
Yeah, full of water. It's probably the most important and most complicated of all of the blocks.
the
Because
place issue.
right, there are 5 generations of buyers in the marketplace today.
I know.
My daughters, who are in their 40s, receive information totally differently than I receive. My oldest daughter reads the Wall Street Journal, reads the New York Times, reads the Washington Post online. I sit and read the Cape Cod Times every morning at breakfast. I get my information by sitting and reading the paper. I watch the evening news. Our daughters get it from a stream of information on the internet. So the question is,
Even on their iPhone.
right, how do your customers receive their information? How are they going to find out about you? How are they going to receive continuing information from you? How are you going to guarantee that they will stay top of mind? And you will stay top of mind with them. So ask yourself the question and ask them, how do they receive information? Now, interestingly enough, one of the most popular ways that people are getting information today is print. Postcards are coming back because how many emails you just delete without reading them?
All of a sudden, direct mails become no more clutter.
Right.
Clutter's now in the emails, and I'm deleting things I even shouldn't. Did you get my email, Cliff? No. I probably deleted either that or went to spam folder.
Oh, is that why I have to send 3 or 4
That's
to you?
why.
Right.
So, but if you send me that postcard, in the EDDM program, we'll talk about that another time, of the post office, you know what, I gotta look at it. Before, even if I throw it away, I gotta look at it.
Right. And the question is, are the channels you're going to use, are they integrated enough to hit them high, hit them low, hit them in the middle, so that they see you in different places, all with the same message?
Same message.
But what channel will you use to reach those people? Because unless you reach them, you'll never get beyond unawareness.
I was a channel. I was door to door selling full of brushes, man.
That's a channel.
Knocking on the doors. Trouble is, you can't do that today because no one's home.
Right. I sold Fuller brushes
Madame.
for one of my jobs.
Madame is not home.
Right. I did the same thing. I sold Fuller brushes. One of my summer jobs. Taught me all about selling, persistence.
Yeah.
I think the town they assigned me died 10 years before. It was in a coal town. Okay. Now, if you go to Waze and ask yourself, what channels do they use? Word of mouth is the biggest channel with people that they depend upon their customers, their users, to tell other people about Waze, and it works. Also, advertisers. Advertisers will say, did you see us on Waze? You walk into Joe's coffee shop. Did you see us on Waze? And the more fully featured that app becomes, the more people will use it and use the channels that are within the app. Okay. So our next block, activities.
Right.
Okay. So when you think about the value proposition and you think about the distributor channels, you got to ask yourself, what are the most important things your organization is going to do in order to make the model work? Okay? So you have to ask yourself, what kind of activities are going to be involved? Is there sales? Is there marketing? Is there manufacturing? Is it a retail shop? Is it brick and mortar? Is it a mobile truck?
Just skywriting.
Right. I mean, whatever it is, if you're offering mobile pet grooming, what are the activities? Well, you're going to have some advertising, and you're going to have some selling. You're going to have a mobile truck, and you're going to have employees that execute it. Okay. So what you want to think about is what are all the activities that you're going to need in order to execute the business model.
By the way, you raise it. I mean, I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but you guys watching the show, if you don't think any of this is important, then explain to me how come Sears is going out of business, okay, and Macy, and a bunch of people, right? I mean, Radio Shack, and so there's a list like this, companies that never saw that truck coming down the street,
right?
And so what Mark is talking about, you better be listening.
Yeah, and when you think about companies that are having difficulty today, they didn't continue to validate their customer segment.
Right.
They didn't continue to validate the activities. They didn't continue to validate the value proposition
Even the value
they're offering.
proposition wasn't right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
It was right 25 years ago,
Right.
not right now.
So with Waze, go back to Waze again, what are their activities? Well, their activities to find new markets, okay? Their activities are R&D software to make the software more effective. Their activities are selling to advertising, as well as curating data and community information, so that when you come to a community, for example, my wife and I are driving down the road and we come by a sign, next exit is. My wife will say, gee, I wonder what the history of this town is. She'll go out of Waze, go into Google it, and read about the town. Waze is now curating data so that all you do is you get to that intersection, you pop on that, and you can find all about the population is 10,000. They've been around since 1684.
And there's a wonderful museum here that shows you whatever.
So those are the activities.
Okay.
Now we also want to think about who are the partners in a business. in today's small business environment, we can't do it ourselves.
No.
And for example, I was in a marketing service business. I didn't do my own graphic design. I had a partner, a strategic partner. For 27 years, Mark did all of our graphic design, all the layout of all our materials. And so he was our strategic partner. So when you think in terms of how are you going to go forward, your lawyer, your accountant, your graphic designer, your brand manager, your web designer,
Your banker.
your banker. Sure. These are all your insurance agent.
SCORE.
Yeah, SCORE, of course.
Your SBDC guy.
SBDC. So what you want to do is you want to
partners.
think in terms of who does it take in order to make this work.
Right.
And the mistake that many small businesses do is they try and do it all,
Yep.
rather than saying we have to have other people help us. So this is the block where you say, who are our partners? So let's see what Waze did.
Well, I tell people all the time, even the Lone Ranger had Tonto.
Right, there you go. Okay, so the big advertisers, the gas chains, they're all the partners, and community leaders are the partners, because the community leaders have to get behind this in order to allow them to do what they do
Right.
in the way of developing Waze and expanding Waze. Okay. So the next block is resources. You have to have money, you have to have people, you have to have facilities. So the question you got to ask yourself is, what resources do we need to do to execute the value proposition? Okay, there are some people that need brick and mortar. There's some people that say, no, I'm going to be a web-based business. So you got to ask yourself, what are the resources? How much money do you need to launch? How much money do you need to keep going for a year? So what you want to do is you want to look at the resources that it takes in order to execute the value proposition. So let's take a look at Waze and see what they said. Well, they need software.
Right.
Okay, they need algorithms. They need developers. They need really good maps.
Yeah.
Okay, and they need a continuation of updating of maps, because environments change, roads change, etc. They need an IT infrastructure that allows them on a dime and a moment to adjust.
Right.
And the
Up-to-date.
most important resource they need is mind share. That when I think about going from my house to what's the name of the street?
Sebastian
San
Way.
Sebastian
Jan
Way.
Sebastian,
Yeah.
I think about Waze.
Go right to
Waze is
Waze.
going to get me here.
Yep.
And I can't tell you the number of times I went from my house to Mashpee Commons for meetings. Very first thing is Waze. And after a couple of times, I remembered how to get there. So it's mind share.
Right.
And these are important, and you got to validate them and constantly say to yourself, do I need the developers on my staff, or can I hire them?
I even use Waze when I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly how I'm going to get there. If it's a particularly long trip, Waze will say to me, don't forget your turn's coming up, because sometimes I'm deep in thought, and if I don't have anything reminding me, I go blowing right by that exit and say, oh darn, gotta go back. Waze saves me from that too.
Right. In 1,000 yards, turn right.
Turn right on exit 8.
Right.
Thank you.
So we've looked at 7 of the 9 blocks.
Right.
The bottom line is, what are the costs that are associated with not only launching but executing your business? Now, this is not a full-fledged financial plan. This is an analysis on the top level of what are the costs. You know, if you're going to open up a hairdresser or a hair salon, you need brick and mortar. What's your lease going to be? What's your insurance going to be? What are your utilities going to be? Top level. How much are your employees going to be, or what is the share you're going to cost you in order to put
How much
in
is the equipment going to
the
cost?
equipment going to cost, because that's what you put in.
Right.
All right? So looking at this top level, what's it going to cost you? It's not done in terms of fixed expenses or variable expenses. It's in terms of what's the cost going to be to launch this model or to execute this model. Let's take a look at Waze. Well, R&D software, big.
Oh yeah.
The cost of generating the maps. Can you imagine how many people it took them in order to generate the maps? And that's the beauty of being part of Google.
Right.
Okay? The
Yeah,
IT
Google
infrastructure.
Maps, they already are doing it. It's up to date, and you can just swing it over to your.
Right.
Yep.
You can merge, okay? And then selling to advertisers. What's going to cost you to get out there? Are you going to do it by
And how are you going to do it?
Yeah, are you going to get people to go door to door? Are you
Right.
going to do it by digitally? How are you going to do it?
Yeah.
So it asks the questions again, and then you validate it. All right, now that's the cost side. Let's take a look at the other side. Where are you going to get the money? How are you going to get the money? How are you going to, how are you going to sell? How are you going to generate revenue? Are customers willing to pay what you're asking?
How much? Yeah.
Right. Are they willing to pay $9.99 or only willing to pay $5.99?
Right.
So this goes back to looking at what's your revenue stream going to be? Are you going to get people that are going to subscribe and pay you monthly to do it? Are you going to get people to pay you on a per service basis? How are you going to generate the revenue? Let's take a look at Waze for a moment.
You play this off against what you just said was your cost.
Right.
It's a good idea if you're in business
Right.
to be charging enough for your product or service that you cover your cost. That's a nice idea.
That's a good idea, yes.
You mean
Yeah.
the Gazette has got to be bigger than the Gazette is?
Right.
Yeah, good idea.
So it's advertising by roadside businesses and paper impression and real-time marketing. So this is the basis of what Waze looked at. And this is where you've got every one of those restaurants. They paid to have every one of those restaurants positioned. Every one of Joe's coffee shop paid, as well as paper impression. Okay? So if I click on Joe's, I pay more.
Right.
Okay?
Joe's does. Yeah.
Right. Joe's does. Okay. So, all right. So what you want to do is you want to think in terms of going online to strategizer.com, and they have examples. And that,
I put it on here. It's on strategizer.com or /Canvas if you
Right.
want to get,
If you want the
you want to
business
get
model
fancy.
canvas, yeah.
right. But if you go on to strategizer.com, it will actually allow you to look at completed business model canvases.
Like
Like
looks
this
like
one.
this.
Right, that looks like that. Where you get an idea what other people have done. And there are hundreds of them on there.
Oh my God! Almost
Yeah.
any business you're
Any
going
business
into
you're
is
looking
there,
at.
or something very close.
Right, and I would suggest to anybody that's doing it, find one close to your business and see what they did,
Right.
so that you can get a feel for what it takes. But the beauty of this, it's not time consuming, it's easy to do, and what it does is it saves you time and resources before you get into the big business plan.
Right.
Now,
And
The-
before you start spending a lot of money
Right.
too.
Now, for most people who don't need external financing, this is an adequate business plan.
Sure.
People who need external financing, that is from a bank or from some lending institution or an SBA financed
Yeah.
or
an angel
backed kind
investor
of
or
investment or investment banker or an angel investor, you're going to have to go through the full business plan.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do the full financial statements. Many times you can use this and your full financial statements to at least get somebody to say, yes, this is financeable. But in the end, you're
More
probably,
validation, Mark.
or validation.
Right.
And many times we have taken this process of business model canvas and sent the client to, for example, Coastal Community Capital. Have them look at it and say, yes, this is financeable. Now do a business
Now we
plan.
need, exactly, I do the same thing. We send them up to Coastal with a business model canvas, and Janine will look at it and say, I think I like this.
Right.
Why don't you
Right.
prepare your business? Now go ahead and put in the time and effort. And
Right.
prepare your
I'm
business.
glad you brought this point up because this is I don't want to be crass about it, but this could be a selling document in a way. I mean, you go to that banker. Bankers don't have any imagination, but you have this business plan on the canvas with you. It impresses. It got to impress the banker that you've done some homework.
Right.
Instead of just sit there and say off the top of your head, say, I got this greatest idea and everybody in the world is going to buy it. You say, no, I've done this work.
I've done some work, I know what I'm talking
Right.
about, I've done the work, the research, I've done some validation.
Right. When we talk to bankers and we ask them, what are the questions you need to have answered when somebody comes before you for a loan? what they want to know is they want to have the confidence that there is a well thought out plan
Right.
that will, in the end, provide the basis for them to get repaid. And
They weren't doing that before 2006, which got everybody in trouble, but now they expect to be paid back. Go figure.
right.
Right.
And the business model canvas gives them, as you just
Yep.
said, Bill, gives them a foundation upon which to say, you're on the right track, we're interested.
Exactly. I'm interested. Tell me more.
Tell me more and come back when you have it more fleshed out.
Right.
But we're interested.
Yep.
Just think that you're sitting there talking to the banker, and the banker says, well, who are your customers? You say, well, I mean, it's
Everybody.
everybody walking up and down the street.
Right.
No, it's not gonna.
That's not going to work.
So this is, I know for those of you who are watching, you can't read this. It's too far. But this is what it would look like after
Right.
When it's
finish.
completed, right.
Right.
Another key item you said a few minutes ago was that you don't just when you counsel someone who is going to work on this, you don't just throw it at them wholesale. You might say start
Right.
with
Right.
it.
Take it in
Take
bite-sized
it in
chunks.
bite-sized. Isn't that what you said?
Right. We suggest that they do the value proposition, the customer segments, and the channels.
Right.
And then stop.
Right.
Go out and validate. And then when they come back, then we can look at relationships. We can look
Then
at
we'll go to the
activities.
next step,
We can look
right.
at the other elements, the resources before they go forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. I'll tell you what. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Give yourself a present and listen to what Marc Goldberg and Coach Robbins are saying. And this business model canvas. You know what this thing is? It's gold. Gold. That's G-O-L-D. Gold. And use it well. Go to strategizer.com, as Mark said, and download the instructions on
right.
there and samples.
Right. The great videos that explain the whole
Every
thing.
tutorial you could ever want to guide you through the process. They even sell now, because I got a few of the big sheets of business model
We did
canvases.
too. They're in our office on the wall.
Yeah.
And you can use erasable pens on it.
Erasable,
right.
or you could just buy
Dry
the
erase.
paper and use Post-it notes on
Right,
it. So
right.
yeah.
The other thing that you want to think about is that when you view the videos, that there's actually a 79-page PDF that you can download that's a summary of the Strategizer book.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching again. I hope you got some good information out of the both episodes that we've done with Marc Goldberg of SCORE. And feel free to send any, if you had any comments, send comments to foxrobbins@gmail.com. And we will see you guys next time.